for being everybody. We'll start with a week statement from the coach, and then since we're lightly attended, I'll let you guys fire away with questions.
Fire away. No. How's everybody doing?
Good.
It's good to see y'all. It's so fun to be back out there, and just what an exciting week for Arizona athletics. Obviously, huge story around here, men's basketball, and their run to the Sweet 16. Just a huge game on Thursday against Arkansas. I'm so excited for Coach Lloyd and that staff and that team. It's a great group of guys, and I love the way they compete. Can't wait to watch them play. And our men's tennis team had two top 10 wins last week, and in conference, incredible. Women's swimming and diving had multiple All-Americans at NCAAs last week, and our men are competing this weekend. Softball had a great series win over the team up north, and so just really a lot of stuff to be excited about around here. For us, we're excited about football. We're finally back out on the grass. We're finally out there with our team and the new pieces that we've added in the off season. So there's a chunk of new guys learning and running around. It's been just a lot of fun watching what they've done through this off season so far with Coach Carroll and that staff. I think those guys have done an incredible job with our team. I really believe in him. Our players really believe in him and his staff, and just the amount of work and effort and some of the numbers that our players are putting up are just outstanding. So I'm excited to see that kind of how that translates into football when we start playing football. Today's a non-padded day, so we're running around in our underwear and helmets, and it's so it's not quite football, but we're out there coaching and competing, and it feels like football. So it's awesome to get started again. This group of kids is just a lot of fun to be around, and I'm really, really excited about where we are in our process and kind of how they continue to attack each day. And then I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of coaches or questions about Noah Fifita, but I think it's amazing to be in a situation where you have a Heisman caliber candidate, quarterback returning. I just think that's rare and really, really special. And as you guys know, and what he's done over his career here and who he is as a young man, we're incredibly fortunate to have Noah Fifita be part of our program. So it's fun. First day of ball, getting out there, just getting going. But I can't wait to just keep practicing and keep going with this group of young men.
You guys go ahead and fire away with questions. I'll give you a symbol where you have 1 minute.
So I think this might be the first time that Noah's had the same offensive coordinator. Definitely his time in Arizona, but I think in high school he also had a lot of turnover at play call. How significant is it for Noah to have Seth Dagey here to where he doesn't have to learn a whole new offense?
No, I think that's huge. I think that's huge for our whole offensive football team, not just Noah. And I think, we've talked about his relationship with Seth a lot before. I think that's also, a really critical factor in Noah choosing to come back. I think that's one of those things that doesn't get talked about enough, is that this young man continues to choose the University of Arizona, and he's done it time and time again. And I think that's one of the things that makes him incredibly special. And on our side of it, as a football program, as a university, as a city of Tucson, I mean, you've seen him out there in next level football, the way he coaches, the way he interacts with fans, the way he interacts with grandpas and grandmas and little kids. He's just special in every way. And his relationship with Coach Dagey, I think, is fantastic. Noah is just an absolute sponge. He just attacks the learning part of it, which is great because he's always, pressing Coach Dagey. And so their relationship is a lot of fun.
And with that, do you feel like, after going through a whole year together, Noah's approach is a little bit different in the spring?
Well, I think he's a player that just continues to grow and evolve because he does attack his process with just such diligence, and that part is really, really fun to watch. And it's fun to see that that relationship with him and Seth. Like, even in practice, if Noah even today, Noah makes a mistake, he turns around to Seth and he's like, he's telling him what it was before Seth can even get it out of his mouth. So I just think that continuity, you've heard me say it before, consistency of leadership in a football program and a football staff is absolutely critical. And I'm really grateful that we were able to keep as many of our coaches intact here and move forward together as we have been able to this season, or this off season.
On that note, since you've arrived in Tucson, where do you think his biggest improvement has been? Do you still think there's room for improvement for a guy like Fifita?
I think he'd tell you there is too. I think every player, every person has a chance to grow and improve. I think if you don't have that mindset, you're playing the wrong game. But absolutely, and I think Noah's going to continue to accelerate that because he also has to get, there's new players on offense, right? We have new tight ends. new running backs and new receivers. And so there's a lot of chemistry that needs to be built up there too. Obviously, the ones with, Chris Hunter and Spivey and Gio and Mizell, like those guys that played a lot of, Brandon Phelps that have played a lot of football for us. But then there's also a bunch of new guys out there too. So I think that's one of the things that over the next, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, we're going to see a lot of growth in.
With three coordinators coming back, how important was it to make that happen, and what have they brought to the team?
Yeah, I think it's critical. That just that consistency of leadership, consistency of messaging. Also, those guys all did, I thought, an outstanding job last year. And so, in that regard, the players having a very clear understanding of what the expectations are day to day, whether it's, for them individually, for each player individually, or for their side of the ball or their phase of the football, collectively. And I think that's been so important. And the one thing that's been really fun for me is just with Danny and Daggy and Niver is that they're all great leaders in their own right. And so we have great staff alignment, and everybody is moving the same direction together. And I think the fact that we get to do it for another year gives us a chance to play good football.
So with Quincy and Ked being limited, how do you think that's going to help Wesley and Corn, even a guy like Antoine who's new but experienced, get implemented into the system?
That's a good question. I think it's critical. Obviously, Quincy and Ked are both proven players for us. So those other guys give them a chance to get more reps and get more opportunity because those two guys are limited. And there's a handful of guys that are going to be limited this spring, right? We had some postseason surgeries, some post cleanup stuff, whatever. That's going to take some time for guys to get back. And so, there'll be a few of those guys that you won't see participating in practice. They'll be out there, but they won't be active participants in it. And that's just because we're listening to the doctors and the trainers about what the exact, right process timetable is for their recovery and for their return to play.
Last year's team was very veteran-led. How do you go about bringing in some new guys? And you've talked about how you want guys that have had snaps in their career, right? So how do you go about integrating? They're new to the team, but not new to football.
Yeah, I think that's, we had great senior leadership last year, from a lot of those guys. And I think there's guys that are coming back on this football team that are also really good leaders that were part of our leadership a year ago, right? So we're going to lean heavily on them. I will say a year ago we added 63 new players, right? And this year it's going to be probably 20 less than that, maybe a little more than 20 less. So that part of it, I think the good news is the bulk of our team that is returning, they understand exactly what the expectations are from me as the head coach, from our coordinators in all three phases, and from the position coaches who are all roughly the same people, right? Because Lyle was so involved with the running back. So I think that part of it, I feel good about that, going forward, because the guys that have joined us, they have played a lot of football, but part of our evaluation isn't just the football. Part of our evaluation is what kind of young man, what kind of person are we bringing into this football family here, right? And as we get to know them through the recruiting process, and it's tough because some of those decisions you have to make pretty quickly, right? But just trying to get a feel for them and see how they fit, with our team is really important. And then the good news is that we had 8 weeks of off season to see them fit in with our group of guys, and that's been really good, really positive.
For the guys that were here last year, specifically in the wide receiver room that may not have gone as many snaps, and those guys like Isaiah, Gio, Brennan, I think you mentioned, how much of a lead do you see them taking?
I mean, honestly, I'll tell you in a month, but, I think I'm expecting them to all make a huge jump. Obviously, Gio had the most production of those three that you just mentioned, but all of them are really good football players and have had outstanding off seasons, right? Mizell's put on some good weight. Brandon Phelps, like statistically, numbers-wise, in his squat, clean, bench, all that stuff, was one of the best on the team in terms of the jump he made, the percentage jump. And so that part of it, I think our expectations for those three are really high.
Kind of go back to Juan's question about just the turnover. It's not as significant as a year ago, but still a lot of guys. Is that what happened this last offseason, this cycle? Was that kind of the norm for college football?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I don't know the answer to that. I think it's year-to-year program specific. You know what I mean? I think there is going to be you're going to see larger numbers turning over for a lot of reasons, but one of the most simple reasons is that you do have more one-year players coming into your program. So in the past, when you might graduate 15 to 25 seniors that have been there for 4 or 5 years, Now you're going to have, a handful of one-year guys adding to that, right? That came in from the portal to play, and like Riley last year, or like Max, or like Michael Dansby, or you know what I mean? Those guys. And so I think that part of it, I think it's going to be year to year, because when you go out into the portal looking for pieces, it depends on what you need. It's kind of like you're hitting the free agent market. You're like, oh, well, we feel good about this position, but we need to add a piece here that we think can help us. So I think it's year to year, depending on how the roster shakes out postseason, and you never really know exactly what that's going to look like until you get there.
In your opinion, sorry, go ahead.
Going up a little bit, it is so rare in college sports to have the quarterback stay for as long as Noah has, to have coaching stay for an extra year. What do you think makes this team so special, and what are you most excited about for being consistent?
I think Noah Fifita was raised by two incredible people. I think he's got a great, foundation, a core values about who he is as a young man. And I think that part of him that has a very clear understanding of commitment and loyalty, that is what I think is showing up, when he makes those decisions. I think he feels good about the program and the people that are here? Absolutely, because I think, people are a big part of the decisions these young men make, right? But I think Noah has seen himself grow a ton in the last year, working with Coach Daggy. He's seen a lot of improvement in the program and how we're moving collectively, and I think he's excited about that. And then what am I most excited about? I am day to day, so I'm really excited about Pro Day tomorrow. I can't wait to see, our guys that just finished playing for us. I think we've got 28 plus teams coming to watch our guys test and do all that stuff. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about practice Thursday. I'm excited to see our men's basketball team Thursday night. Let's go. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff going on.
In your opinion, what are some of the most notable position battles going on in spring?
That's a great question. I think I'm excited to see, that just knowing that in the back end on defense, those guys were so impactful, right? Stukes, Dalton, Genesis, Dansby, Aiden Garnes, like that group was really, really impactful. So I'm excited to see how that shakes out. I think we've added some good players from the portal. I think we've added some good players, from the high school ranks. And I think, I'm excited to see Gavin Hunter, the move he can make, because he played some really good football for us earlier in the year as Traden was coming back from his injury. So I'm really excited to see how that shapes out there. I think the tight end position is going to be really interesting, because it's kind of a mix of, there's a couple transfers there, there's a couple young players there. I think that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. You guys already mentioned the running back position, just without Quincy and Ked being available. I'm excited to see Wesley play. I'm excited to see Corn play. I'm excited to see Antoine play. I just think there's a lot of excitement in my mind to watch that. And then the receivers, just how is that going to shake out? Like the three you mentioned, or the four you mentioned, obviously we're expecting a big jump from them. How do the other pieces that we've added to that room contribute and compete for a spot? So that's kind of what spring ball is all about. The fun part is, spring ball kind of sets a depth chart for the summer, but it really doesn't mean anything until you get to fall camp, So, I mean, that, we go through a very similar process, probably even more intense in fall camp, when you start deciding who's going to play and who's not. But we have a lot to learn. We have 40, or right now we have 34 new players. So, establishing with the new group, like what exactly Redline looks like and what it is, and can we live Redline day in and day out as we attack our process of improvement. And that is just one of those things from me that I'm going to continue to be harping on with our team, and trying to find examples of it in practice, or examples of it not also.
You can clearly see the excitement, not only from you, but on the field. How do you kind of balance that level of extreme excitement, but also let's get down to business and keep improving?
I think you need to have energy and enthusiasm if you're going to get anything done that's worth a damn. And so I'm excited. I want that energy out there. I want that thing overflowing. I want the practice environment to be hype. I want it to be exploding. I want people to be like, oh my God, they look like they're having more fun than everybody in the country. You know what I mean? That's what I want that practice environment to feel like. And I feel like today was a good start to that. And I think it's just going to keep, accelerating and keep improving.
We'll finish up with Justin.
So how do you assess offensive line, especially the left side, considering you're losing two starters there?
Well, I think that's hard, and I think we just need to get playing. You know, I know that we're excited about, you know, what Lotto's going to do because he came in and played some really good football for us at the end of the season. Tristan's coming back from the injury that he sustained at Cincinnati, right? And so we're excited. We'll think we'll get some work from him this spring. And so, like, how those pieces fit are going to be really, really interesting, right? We're excited about Zach. You know, Zach Henning from, you know, the transfer from Washington. We think he's going to, you know, be a good player for us. So there's some pieces there that still need to play. But, like, walking into it, especially in the O-line, you're like, well, I think it's these 5. Now let's play some football and figure out if it is.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
All right, bear down.